Hello and welcome to The Hard Sell, the programme where the stick rattles back. And welcome to another
Have a Break.
Today's adverts come from all the way back 44 years ago, in 1975. Most 70s footage suggests that absolutely everything during that decade was brown and grainy, except for Top of the Pops, which was a riot of colour if you could ignore all the sex offenders, which you couldn't because literally everyone on the television was one. It gets so legend, has it? 1975 also had the longest, hottest summer in decades, although the one a year later outdid it. Neither, of course, hold a candle to the slow-motion climate apocalypse we're living in, but probably not through, today. Lucky us. Harold Wilson was Prime Minister, but not for too much longer. And although the days of the three-day week were behind us, the days of the second oil crisis and winter of discontent were still ahead. And, least important of all, except for our purposes, Our Man Flint was on ITV at some point, and 3/4 of an hour in, it broke off to show a set of short films aimed at convincing the viewer to buy certain brands of household product or service. This are those. Is them. Tonight.
You know how much dogs love fresh meat?
Yeah, but dogs also eat their own vomit. I wouldn't take dog's culinary recommendation, is what I'm saying. Frankly, I'd need some time to get over the fact that he could talk.
Well, here's something pretty amazing. New hap.
This is Colonel Leslie Hap-a-blap.
Moist, meaty, really juicy chunks that look and taste as good as fresh meat.
But somehow aren't.
Dogs love it just as much.
Yeah, again, dogs love licking their own balls. We're not talking about Egon Rone here.
See, one collie's eating fresh meat, the other hap. Now watch. You can even change the bowls over, and the dogs love it just the same.
Oh, well, actually, in that case now I am convinced. That is a pretty watertight test right there. I mean, everyone knows a dog won't just eat anything vaguely edible put in front of them. That seems legit.
Give your dog new hap. It looks and tastes as good as fresh meat.
But again, somehow isn't. We're not going to tell you what it actually is, but it's not like you're eating it yourself.
It looks and tastes as good as fresh meat.
A pure and simple thing like rain means a lot to flowers.
I always thought Chauncey Gardiner would do well in the advertising industry.
In a garden, growth has its season. First comes spring and summer, but then we have fall and winter. And then we get spring and summer again.
And this new Pure and Simple will mean a lot to your skin. New Pure and Simple is light and easily absorbed. It simply adds moisture to your skin, bringing it a smoothness and a softness that really lasts.
These days this advert would have cut away long before this point for some sort of sweeping CGI diagram shot in Bollocks-O-Vision. A fanciful close-up of skin pores the size of hams encountering suspicious-looking white fluid and reacting appropriately according to what the advert's trying to tell you, plumping up or smoothing out or whatever it is they want you to think the stuff does. That wasn't so practical in 1975. So we have endless shots of the model rubbing the stuff in, or pretending to, while a honeyed voiceover explains how wonderful it is, and occasional shots of a small child subliminally reinforce the notion of soft-skinned youth, in a way that can't help but come across as faintly creepy if you actually have to think about it.
New, pure and simple in both lotion and cream for softness that really lasts.
In 1975, Tusker Rock Lighthouse was painted in Santex to protect it against anything the weather could throw at it. Santex. There's no better protection for your home.
Can't say fairer than that, can you? Single sweeping shot of a lighthouse and some bloke saying this lighthouse was painted with our paint because it's great. Not a lot to say about it, really. Might as well discuss the product, which, unusually even for 1975, is nowhere to be seen in the advert itself, except of course for ambiently in the middle distance all over the lighthouse. Lighthouse is a Santex's go-to sigil, if you like. There's one in the logo. It's a masonry paint, you see, as opposed to a matte or a gloss or whatever you might use to paint the indoors. Those can be represented by dogs or flowers or whatever all day long. Their main utility is to look nice. Masonry paint is for outdoors, exterior walls and such, and while looking nice is still a high priority, the main thing it needs to be is rugged, being as it is exposed to the elements all of the time. Hence the lighthouse imagery, and in this case, endorsement. Few buildings get the shit kicked out of them more often or thoroughly than a lighthouse, and few buildings need to stand out quite so much either. Well, usually.
Santex. There's no better protection for your home.
Mr. Rawlings, Your Majesty.
Her Majesty, Mr. Rawlings.
Oh joy. Raj nostalgia.
Your Majesty.
Mr. Rawlings, we find your tonic water most refreshing, and we have today ordered another bottle.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
The British Empire was still within living memory at this point. In fact, we still owned a scraping or two of it. Wistful nostalgia for how great it was when white people with cut-glass accents ruled the world was, well, I was going to say even more prevalent than it is now, but I'm not sure there's that much in it. The main difference is that most of the modern-day whimsical racists are too young to actually remember the glory days firsthand. Wasn't quite as true in 1975.
We are intrigued, Mr. Rawlings, as to why it is called Indian tonic water.
Tandoori.
Thank you!
Tandoori.
Crying out loud.
Tandoori.
Right when it looked like it might just get away with their nonchalant racism being implied and ambient rather than direct.
Tandoori. Tandoori. Tandoori.
I suppose it's better this way. And at least that does appear to be an actual person of South Asian extraction in the role of... I refuse to say the character's name.
Why do we call it Indian tonic water?
Why not?
I regret, ma'am, but of necessity that must remain a trade secret. She was not amused.
For the record, Indian tonic water is called that because it was invented by colonial officers in India as a means of taking their malaria-preventing quinine without gagging on how bitter it is. John Rawlings was one of the apothecaries behind the quinine powder, and was indeed operating long before that Teutonic upstart, Mr. Schwepp. Although any resemblance to Arthur Lowe is sadly unsubstantiated.
Rawlings. We knew how before you know who.
This is a rare example of a British advert actively alluding to a rival brand. It's usually prohibited, but in this case, since they don't mention Schweppes by name, nor do they say anything judgmental about them, beyond the verifiable historical fact that their company's older, they get away with it.
Rawlings. We knew how before you know who.
Sooner or later, your car will get a dent or a hole. So, what do?
Is this a protection racket?
If you're wise, you'll use Contour, the sensational new filler paste from Holtz.
If you're wise. Yeah, if you know what's good for you, boss. Yeah, if you want the holes fixed, not increased, you know what I'm saying? Because these things can spread. You take it from me, 1-0 dent can easily become 2 or 3. And before you know it, the whole car's out of commission. And I know you don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen either. What can we do?
It's easy to mix, easy to apply, and easy to sand into shape.
And all it'll cost you, $400 a month. Every month. For as long as you want to keep this little care business of yours running. You know what I'm saying?
You get an ultra-smooth finish, better results, contours permanent, and very useful around the home, too, for repairing drain pipes.
Yeah, you know how much a busted drain pipe can set you back, Squire. Gets knackered in just the right spot could take out the plumbing for the whole building. Domino effect, innit? Chain reaction. Bad luck. Happens every day.
Filling garage doors, mending windowsills,
Double glazing, yeah, good stuff, boss. Can't be cheap. Cannot be cheap at all. Lucky it's nice and sturdy, yeah. You don't want to have to replace that, you know what I'm saying?
Garage doors, mending windowsills, fixing...
Okay, forget the mobster theory. He's just a psychopath.
Why not try contour yourself? Or else...
See?
You can do it with Holtz.
Cheesecake!
Do you know the one-word recipe for cheesecake?
Is it just the German word for cheesecake?
Greens, 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 cheesecake.
Yes, when all else fails, just show some footage of your product existing and or happening while chanting the brand name over and over again in a religious fervour.
Greens, greens, greens.
You're not likely to forget the name anytime soon, are you?
Greens, greens.
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 Greens, 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 greens.
In the absence of imagination, resources or inclination to do anything else, here's the entire basic process.
Greens, cheese.
Sweet crumbly biscuit, smooth tangy filling. Just add milk and butter, made in 10 minutes and no baking.
Near instant cheesecake. Well, 10 minutes according to Ray Brooks, although I have a feeling it took most people somewhat longer. The point is, it's luxury brought down a peg or two. Not as nice as a real fully made cheesecake, but better than no cheesecake at all.
Greens, the one-word recipe for cheesecake.
In summary, greens.
Greens, cheesecake.
Hello, sir. Oh, no, sir. Nothing tastes nicer than Cadbury's Dairy Milk.
God bless her, but who decided Cilla Black was a singer?
Lovely, isn't it? And as anyone can see, every bar is chunky.
Actually, at this point in her career, she was at a bit of a crossroads. Her pop career had stalled, but she wasn't the bright red teeth and curls queen of light entertainment that she became in the mid-80s yet either. In fact, she was trying to forge a new career as some sort of comedienne and sitcom star, with the Ronnie Barker-aping anthology series Cilla's Comedy 6, running at about the same time as this commercial break. Apparently it was okay, but had it been truly successful, you'd already know from how she's a famous singer-stroke-sitcom star, and Blind Date was a failed pilot starring Duncan Norvell.
Magic!
Yeah. That's because there's a glass and a half of full cream milk in every half pound.
Anyway, as you can see, she was also, at the same time, the front woman for Cadbury's Dairy Milk, who had her travelling the country bothering people with bars of admittedly delicious chocolate, intermittently squawking down the lanes in rhyming couplets or describing its salient features.
That's why, sir, nothing tastes nicer than Cadbury's Dairy Milk. Than Cadbury's Dairy Milk!
Pretty standard advertising stuff for the mid-70s. This was before the Saatchis and the like started injecting cinematic techniques into TV advertising, and technological innovators like Martin Lambie-Nen changed people's ideas of what could be done. And directors who'd moved on to real filmmaking, like Ridley Scott and Hugh Hudson, started moving back for gargantuan fees and gargantuan budgets, and adverts started to become short films and eventually video essays, and the barrier between art, propaganda and capital was completely lost. You know, those days, when the most lavish and expensive advert consisted of 4 camera shots and some racist humour, and most of the budget went on costumes and set dressing, when advertising was less sophisticated, but at least it knew its place. The rattling of a stick in a swill bucket. even though the stick was poised to escape the bucket and start rattling the world. You've been watching a Bob the Fish production. Thanks! If you haven't found it already, be sure to check out our website at bobthefish.org.uk. Literally hundreds of videos not unlike this one that will make you laugh, think and realise new things or your money back. Which works out great because they're all absolutely free. All of this is possible thanks to the not unique way that Bob the Fish productions are paid for by you, the viewing public, via Patreon. For a donation of as little as £1 a month, not only do you ensure that I still have food and shelter so I can carry on making these programmes, but you could become eligible for a whole host of cool extras. New video essays, special event live streams, all my content a week in advance, and my book on the history of the BBC, Rule the Waves, chapter by chapter as it's written. And some cake, if you go out and buy a cake and eat it while you're watching. And if you don't want to support on a monthly basis, you can make a one-off donation via coffee. It all helps stave off scurvy. bobthefish.org.uk. You make it what it is.